This movie tells a story about a trip to the countryside which turns out to be far from idyllic for a father and his new fiancée when his kids decide the house is a little too crowded. This movie is about a country trip that goes very wrong. Unfortunately, the film does as well. Just like in many horror films that have come before, these horror cliches deliver lackluster chills. It draws on spooky genre tropes but fails to develop its plot and atmosphere. It becomes a general rule: if your movie isn't going to impress with some spectacles, at least you need to add something to fill the gap. It could be compelling characterization, mind-bending and thoughtful storytelling, or perhaps innovation and engaging visual technique. Unfortunately, the main parts of this movie, like hostile children, a dubious husband, and rote recitation of plot points, don't add much in this character-driven horror film. This is a movie that leans on withheld information to drive a mystery, but lacks anything for viewers to latch on to emotionally. The plot is simple and moves slowly with clumsily built tension, preparing viewers for a twist. The lack of visual style and attention and consequent failure to craft a suspenseful atmosphere is especially glaring. The result is really minimal, and it feels rather pretentious, as the filmmakers seem trying to make some sort of elevated horror but fails to do so. The effort to evoke psychological unease entails simply by having the children doing weird things. The movie expects the creepiness of Lucia and Rolfe should complement Holly's outsider feelings with little more than a vague notion that they don't like her very much. Their initially silent performances eventually give way to minimal dialogue, but whether this was a stylistic choice abandoned partway through scripting or filming is entirely unexplored. The central mystery around their mother's absence does little to illuminate these characters. There isn't much indication that any thought was given to their individual personalities beyond their hostility toward Holly. The film doesn't reveal much about Richard and Holly's relationship prior to their visit. The overarching tension revolves around his potential involvement in a mystery for which he's an overly obvious red herring, not the more pressing issue of whether Richard is simply deceitful. These scattershot attempts at exploring Holly's alienation within her new family culminate in a third act and climax so abrupt that this 70-minute film feels unfinished. The resulting ambiguity doesn't raise intriguing questions, it's just a shrug that speaks to the woefully undercooked ideas on display. The movie eventually feels underexplored and crude. Overall, this movie is a letdown. With a little bit over an hour running time, this movie feels like an underdeveloped short movie that has overstayed its welcome. We do not recommend this movie at all.